Good morning and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Health. At this time, folks, quiet please. Quiet please. At this time, please silence all cell phones and electronic devices to minimize disruptions. At any time throughout today's proceeding, do not approach the dais. We thank you for your kind cooperation. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good morning. Pursuant to Council Rule 7.110, the Committee on Health is holding a meeting today. It's not a hearing. It's a meeting to consider Introduction 967, sponsored by Councilmember Holden. I want to thank my staff and committee staff for their hard work preparing for this meeting and for my colleagues for being here today. We are joined by Councilmember Holden, Councilmember Brannan, Councilmember De La Rosa, Councilmember Gennaro, Councilmember Narcisse. Is Councilmember Felder online? Councilmember Felder online, Councilmember Marte, and Councilmember Feliz. Before I give the floor to Councilmember Holden, who as the first named sponsor has the privilege of being the first heard today, I want to remind everyone in attendance, no testimony will be accepted or heard at this meeting because the rule invoked by the bill sponsor calls for a meeting of the committee to be held, and this is not a public hearing. Councilmember Holden and any council member who wishes to speak after him will have 2 minutes to make their statement. Councilmember Holden, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mahatma Gandhi quoted, the greatness of a nation can be judged by the way its animals are treated. And that compassion should extend to all living beings, especially in the most helpless. The greatness of a city is also measured by that. The greatness of a city council should also be measured by that. And the greatness of a council member should be measured by that. Living beings should be treated with respect and not tortured. Nobody's asking, this is servile work, by the way. This is work that they don't agree to. These horses don't, obviously, you can't feel their pain. They're working in horrendous conditions. The streets of Manhattan are the worst in the entire world. The Central Park Conservancy has come out against this because it's a safety matter. 2 horses broke away. Are we waiting for somebody to get killed? That's what we're waiting for. If somebody was killed, by the way, this council would have acted already. Believe that. And that's the problem we have here. Look at the crowds. We're into other rooms. Look at the crowds outside. And this committee chose not to have a hearing on this bill for 4 years. That's a disgrace. There's discrimination going on here, and we know it. And it's disgusting. I originally had a bill that would replace a horse with an electric carriage. Looks like this. It looks like a carriage, obviously, without the horse. It's electric. It's slow, but it's charming. And a corporation was going to donate these carriages, electric carriages. The union didn't want that. Why? They're protecting what? They're protecting the drivers? No. Who are they protecting? Are they protecting New Yorkers? This is not going to break away and run wild, get spooked. Horses are prey animals. That means when they are threatened, they have a defense of the only thing they could do is run. And what happens when they run with a carriage and people behind them? Tragedy. So I've tried my best in this council. I've introduced 2 bills on this. The first one I modified because some council members didn't like the idea of, they call cars, this is not a car, in the park. But how we measure ourselves as a society is, again, how we treat animals. The voiceless, the helpless. And this is not something that I'm inventing, by the way, because how many cities around the United States have banned horse carriages in their cities? Chicago, Philadelphia, Camden, New Jersey, Salt Lake City, Montreal, Toronto, Key West, Florida, Palm Beach, Florida, Panama City Beach, Florida, Asheville, North Carolina, Biloxi, Mississippi, Amsterdam, and then we go around the world, Amsterdam, Brussels, Barcelona, Beijing, Delhi. Again, it goes on, Melbourne, San Juan. I mean, I'm not going to read it all because it would take too long to eat up my 2 minutes. So Madam Chair, I move that the committee schedule a public hearing on intro 967 so the public can testify and we can gather full input like we have here, because nobody could speak today, before any vote is taken. That's pursuant to Rule 7.110.
Thank you. I will now open the floor.
Madam Chair, my motion is on the floor.
Thank you, Councilmember. I now open the floor to any council member who would like to speak. Councilmember Gennaro?
Motion, point of order. The motion takes precedent.
You're not a member of the committee, council member, so we can't
Then,
entertain.
Madam Chair, I'm going to file an injunction of discrimination.
Okay.
That's against the rules, and I'm going to file an injunction. Thank you.
Councilmember Gennaro.
Yeah, all I'm looking to do is speak, and I don't know why Councilmember Holden would be afraid of. I think the only thing he may be afraid of is that he issued a statement that unfortunately didn't have any facts other than those that the cities that have banned horse carriages. How about this for a fact? The industry has been in existence for 150 years and not one conviction of animal cruelty. And it's not like the advocates are not out there every single day and in the stables looking for any possible thing that could lead to some sort of allegation of animal cruelty. And that is a fact. What we really have here is a religious belief that a horse shouldn't pull a carriage, that they're tortured, which is stupid to say, that they work under horrendous conditions, that there is discrimination going on. I don't even know who that's, directed at. I wrote a bill in 2010. I've been dealing with this industry since I came on as a transportation policy analyst, environmental analyst in 1990. Where's the clock? in 1990, and this was under the Transportation Committee at that time. So that goes back to 1990, 35 years. I've been involved with this industry in an oversight capacity, both as a staff member and as a member. And I wrote the bill that restricted the hours that they could work, that would set the temperature limits high and low, that would mandate box stalls, that would give them 5 weeks vacation, that would give them lifetime retirement on a farm, and for their full natural life, all kinds of reforms that we have put in place with the industry, and this is I think and to wipe out an industry and say, not only are you going to be out of business, but it's now up to you.
Please wrap up.
Okay, so it's now up to the owners to home the horses someplace else. It costs $10,000 a year, to maintain a horse. Who's supposed to pay for that? So this is an ill-conceived and silly bill, which I'd be happy to vote no on.
Thank you, Councilmember. Now, Councilmember De La Rosa would like to make remarks.
Thank you so much. I actually wasn't going to speak, but I've been so moved by Councilmember Holden's comments that I must speak as the chair of labor for the city council. We are talking about human beings who have jobs, who have to provide for their families. And since we're quoting Mahatma Gandhi, I wish this energy was present when we talk about undocumented people in the city of New York, homeless people in the city of New York, those people who are not able to fend for themselves and in this moment are voiceless, because there's members on this committee that have been silent when we've seen people pull up into New York City and remove people from our communities. And so I am proud to be the labor chair in this council, and organized labor has stood and actually dripped blood for people, for civil and human rights across this nation. And we owe them the respect to today, respect how they earn a living wage for their families. I see children in the audience. Those children deserve a future too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Narcisse.
Thank you, Chair. As we discuss the future of the horse carriages in the city, it is important to acknowledge that this issue is not one-sided. There are legitimate concerns about animal welfare that deserve our attention. I'm an animal lover, yeah. But we must also recognize the workers whose livelihood are tied in this industry. Many of these drivers are immigrants, longtime New Yorkers who have invested heavily in their medallions. That is just like when we were talking about the taxi drivers. They're often taking one substantial loans with the expectation of a steady, reliable work. Any policy we consider must take into account the real financial consequences for these families and ensure that we do not ignore or dismiss the human cost attached to those medallions. We need a thoughtful approach that addresses the safety, the welfare, without destabilizing the lives of the working people. As an immigrant myself, I hear the call. Like I said, I'm an animal lover as well. This needs to be addressed one way or the other. I want to strike a balance with this process. This is New Yorkers. We are all New Yorkers. I feel like the transition that was supposed to take place, as my colleagues mentioned, 4 years ago. So my whole thing is, if we are truly New Yorkers, we have to approach this with respect for each other, and most importantly, the livelihood of those folks that invested in the city of New York. So thank you, my colleague.
Thank you. Anybody else that's a committee member want to make remarks? Yes, Council Member Brannan.
Thank you, Chair. As someone who got his start in politics as an animal rights activist, I've always said that those who do not understand the passion of animal welfare activists often assume some sort of ulterior motivation. The average person simply can't believe that some of us just really, truly care about the welfare of animals. Nothing more and nothing less. Sadly, in the last few months, the issue of the Central Park horse carriages has been completely poisoned and hijacked by bad actors and desperate people who, frankly, do not care about animals at all. They just care about getting paid. And it's making everybody look bad. Hypocrisy in the animal rights movement only fuels public skepticism and makes it harder for activists to be taken seriously, to gain widespread support, and to make meaningful progress. As the only member, I think, of the city council who has "meat is murder" tattooed on his neck, you can't tell me I don't care about animals. I have always believed that my problem with the horses has been getting the horses to and from the stables. I have no issue with the horses in Central Park. I do believe that there's a compromise to be found. That compromise is not to be found in Ryder's Law. Talk about the sponsor of the bill. I haven't spoken to him in 4 years. This is not how you do business in the city council. It's about relationships. Bob and I have never had a single conversation about this bill. I'm on leadership in the council. I care about animal welfare. Not one conversation did he come to me and say, hey, how can we move this bill forward? What do you think of it? How do we progress it? How do we work it out? Not one conversation. To bring us here on a Friday for a shotgun vote is just not how you do business in the city council. So with all that in mind, including the fact that the mayor suddenly woke up a month ago and started caring about the horses, never cared about it before, I can only imagine why he suddenly cares about the horses. I'm sure that'll all come out in the wash. But with all of that in mind, I'll be voting no today.
Thank you, Councilmember Brannan. Councilmember, anybody else on the committee? No? Okay. Councilmember Marte.
Thank you, Chair Lynn, and thank you, Councilmember Holden, for introducing this bill and being a tireless advocate for the voiceless. There's very few times where I actually congratulate our mayor. I have a long track record of rallying in the steps of City Hall, sometimes even suing the mayor. But what the mayor has put forward, I believe, is a win-win solution. When we talk about protecting the workers, currently, on average, workers make less than $40,000 a year. What the city is offering in total can be more than $70,000 a year. This is a plan that not only takes into account the amount of work you put in, but also the additional benefits that you can get as a city worker that everyone here cherish this because we know the value of working for the city and being protected by the city. Look, we're in 2025. If it was an individual, if it was a human pushing a horse carriage, we would call that inhumane. If it was any other living animal, whether it's dogs or cats, pushing the carriage, we will call that inhumane. Why do we have to put horses at a different level? And that's why I've been supportive of this bill. That's why I think we should end this inhumane practice. But as many of my colleagues said, we do have an offer, a compromise in the table to make sure that the workers who have been working tirelessly, and many of them loving these animals, are protected for the future, while also making sure that we can move forward as a city and evolve our economy to make sure that we have electric vehicles that are safe, that people will love, and that would become an icon in Central Park in New York City. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Baccia?
This fight has been going on for decades, decades and decades and decades. And it has caused tremendous pain and continues to cause tremendous pain. There is a path forward to be found here. There is a path forward that protects the jobs of everyone involved and that gets the horses out of Midtown traffic. I refuse to believe that we have to choose between the two. And we can build a system, find a solution here. The status quo is not acceptable. This industry has continued to shrink over time, and it will continue to shrink. That's just a reality. But there's a way, I have to believe there's a way forward where the workers can benefit, the horses can come out of Midtown traffic, and we could change the status quo. It's going to take everyone coming to the table with a real determination to find a solution. And kicking the can down the road and just sticking with the status quo is not going to do it. So I really challenge all my colleagues
You can finish your thought.
show
Go.
that leadership and to bring everyone together and to come up with a path forward, but the status quo is not acceptable.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to give Councilmember Holden 1 minute rebuttal because his name was mentioned.
Thank you, Chair. Since my name was mentioned by Councilmember Brannan, he had promised when he ran for office to support the horse carriage ban, and he reneged. And I kept asking him in the first 4 years of this term, in the first year or so, I asked him, "Are you signing on? Are you signing on? Are you?" "Yep, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week." So he reneged, and he claims to be an animal rights person, but so why wouldn't he sign on? Because he knew there was a problem. He promised people he would sign on, and he didn't. Well, that's consistent with many politicians, but not me. If I said I would support this, I support it. I've been fighting now more than 4 years for this, and yet it gets blocked because of discrimination. It gets blocked because of people who are actually in lockstep with special interests, not the interests of New Yorkers, not the interests of animals, not the interests of the city of New York. And we held up the chart that, again, workers would make a lot more than making now.
Okay,
Thank you.
Councilmember, thank you. All right. Now, pursuant to Council Rule 7.110, I will call Intro 967 to vote. Clerk, please call the roll.
Greetings, William Martin, Committee Clerk. Roll call vote, Committee on Health. Introduction 967. Councilmember Brennan.
No.
Gennaro.
No.
Feliz.
No.
De La Rosa.
No.
Menon. Narcisse.
I abstain.
Zhuang. Felder. Councilmember
Can you
Felder.
hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know maybe this is because of my lack of the experience. Are we voting on having a hearing or are we voting on the issue itself?
One moment, Councilmember.
Councilmember Felder, we're voting on whether to send the bill out to the body.
And the bill would ban the horse carriages? In
Yes.
other words, the hearing. So we're not voting on a hearing, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so if we're voting on a ban, I vote no.
That's not what we're voting on, Councilmember. We're voting on whether to send this particular bill to the floor.
I'm sorry. The sponsor, Member Holden, started the meeting with what I thought he talked about having a hearing, but now the chair is explaining that that's not what we're voting on. Is that correct?
What is your
That
what
we're
is your
not
yeah? What is your vote, Councilmember? Councilmember, do you want to vote to push the bill forward or no? We have to move
Yes.
forward.
Yes,
So
I
you're
want to
voting
push
yes.
the bill forward.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mamarato. Ariola. Point of clarification, legislation in this committee needs to garner 6 affirmative votes by committee members for adoption. With a vote of 1 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, and 1 abstention, item is defeated. Chair Schulman.
Abstain.
My apologies. Current vote is 1 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, and 2 abstentions. Item remains defeated by committee.
Thank you all. I am now adjourning this meeting.